Just how aggressive should the Atlanta Braves be at this year's trade deadline? Should they consider trading players like Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy, players with control beyond this season? Yes, I think they should, and I'm going to tell you why in today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at shorts.ball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and you're watching this on YouTube, please stop what you're doing real quick. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have, or once you have, hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below so others can find us here at Locked On Braves. Thank you so much for all your support there on the YouTube side and on the audio side, where we still get the majority of our listeners. I understand it. I wouldn't want to look at me either. And you can help us out there by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Big shout out to all my everydayers out there who continue to let me know in the comments section or through a DM message on Instagram. I'm still trying to figure out that platform, but thank you so much for all the kind words that you give me over there. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about the trade deadline. I'm specifically going to be talking about for the Atlanta Braves why I think they should open it up a little bit. Alex Anthopoulos is saying he's not going to trade anybody with control beyond this year. I think that's a mistake, and I'm going to tell you why. We'll also get into the latest news and rumors leading up to the deadline on Thursday. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So as I said, on today's podcast, I want to focus on, for the Braves specifically, we talked earlier in the week about players who are going to be free agents after the year. Those should all just be gone. Ozuna, Iglesias, whatever you can get for them, trade them. No reason for them to be on this team the rest of the year. I'm blocking other players who we want to get a look at, and it's just an opportunity to get at least maybe something in return, hopefully. So those players need to be gone. But I also think there are some players that have control beyond this season that you should also at least consider trading if the right deal comes along. Now, Alex Anthopoulos has said he's not interested in trading anyone beyond that has control beyond this season. Alex Anthopoulos has said a lot of things over the past year or so that turned out not to be true. So I don't necessarily believe him in that either. Now, the first one that comes to mind for many people, and it's come up a lot, is Ozzie Albies. Part of the reason is because Ozzie Albies, technically his contract's up this year. The Braves have a team option on him for the next 2 years at $7 million a piece. And it just feels like the elephant in the room that we're kind of avoiding, don't really want to talk about, or at least I don't want to, because I love Ozzie as the person. But it seems like there is a shift in who the future second baseman is for the Atlanta Braves, where we all just considered, even coming into this year, it was going to be Ozzie Albies for at least the next 3 seasons. 2025, 2026, 2027, and perhaps even beyond that. When you look at, there were a lot of a list going around earlier this month about all-time Braves franchise teams. Almost all of them put Ozzie Albies at second baseman. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's maybe the best second baseman in franchise history in Ozzie Albies. You're talking about a guy who is beloved in the clubhouse, beloved by the media. You don't hear anybody say a bad word about Ozzie Albies. And that's what makes this situation so uncomfortable, and why I think he has probably gotten a longer leash this year than most people should have, because it has not been good this season for Ozzie Albies. But to set it up again, he has 2 option years left at $7 million each. It felt like the best bargain in all of baseball, even coming into this year. Just $7 million for a guy that, when healthy over the last several years, the last 6 or 7 years, has been the best, one of the best second basemen in baseball, certainly one of the best offensive second basemen in baseball. Now, the option year for 2026 has a $4 million buyout. So it almost seems pointless not to at least pick up the option, even if you don't think he's going to be your second baseman. Saving $3 million and letting Ozzie Albies go doesn't make a ton of sense for the depth that he brings for the team, and just the fact that you could still try, you could pick up the option and try to move him. Here's the rub with Ozzie, and why this is such an awkward conversation. when you look at Ozzie Albies' entire career, it's a 105 WRC plus. 100 is league average. So he has been just above league average for his career. Now, there's certainly been some highs and lows in there. We know the years when he gets injured, it's just an absolute disaster. But if you look now at 3 of the last 4 years, including this season, he's been a below average hitter, with the outlier being 2023. Now, granted, he was hurt for most of 2022 and 2024, but he was below average, just below average, again, to give him credit, just below average in those seasons. And this year, he's obviously well below average, but that's now 3 of the last 4 seasons that when he's played, he's been a below average offensive player, at least based on WRC plus. And now he's in the worst season of his career when he assumingly is healthy. He's having the worst season of his career. And the common theme in 3 of the past 4 years for Ozzie, those down years that he's had, has been the lack of power. Those are the worst years of ISO that he's had, isolated power that he's had. His ISO is for his career is 190, which is really good. But in those 3 seasons, it's been 162, 153, and this year it's all the way down to 104. And if the power isn't there for Ozzie, I'm not really sure what value he brings to your team other than being a great clubhouse guy. And that does go a long way, but it's not necessarily leading to any wins this year. It's not really helping in any area this year. Look, if the Braves were to trade Ozzie, I can almost guarantee you there would be a rift in the clubhouse. There would be some disgruntled players in that clubhouse. It's also partially why maybe you do it now so they get that out of their system, as Ozuna's helping out his trade value here. Hit a 2-run home run after a Michael Harris single and an Austin Riley home run. The Braves getting back into this one as I'm recording during the game on Tuesday night. So that's good news for the Braves and Marcell Ozuna's trade market. Home runs in back-to-back games. But for Ozzie, it's, again, if he's not giving you the power, I don't know what he brings you. It's a 320 on base for his career, but it's been 310 or less in 5 of the last 6 seasons, with 2023 again being that outlier. He doesn't steal as much as you think he would. You know, sometimes he can get into the double-digit steals range, but it's not like he's a 20 stolen base type of threat generally. The other part of it is the power seems to be declining. It's not there. And while he looked like a Gold Glove candidate early in his career, that has been declining as well. And he's been, based on metrics, at least average. But I think even, those who watch him every day can tell you, as we can as Braves fans, it's probably been less than average, especially the arm. It's a very weak arm. It's cost the Braves a lot of double plays. So who is Ozzie at this point? It's the question that I think we're asking as fans, and the Braves certainly have to be asking. And he looks like, again, with 2023 being the outlier and understanding he's been dealing with injuries in 2022 and 2024, he looks like at his best right now, it's a guy that might hit 20 home runs. Even this year, he plays all year. Doesn't look like he's going to get to 20 home runs, maybe 15 to 20 home runs. But I'm giving him a little bit of grace for the injuries and just, still banking on his career arc. That maybe it's a guy that hits 20 home runs. Maybe it's a guy that hits 240, 250. I don't see with his profile right now a guy that can hit 260, 270 like he did earlier in his career. So you're looking at a guy with maybe 15 to 20 home runs, 240, 250 average, more like a 300 on-base percentage that plays average defense. And look, that's not terrible. That's not a bad player, especially for $7 million, but it is a pretty big decline from the powerful Wizard of Oz that we're used to seeing hit 260, 270 with 25 to 30 home runs. That's a big difference in who that player is. And I think that's what the Braves have to decide here. One, who is Ozzie Albies? What type of player can we expect from him going forward? And is that player a part of our future? And if not, then let's go ahead and make that move. Let's go ahead and make that transition. We've already seen with Nacho Alvarez, we talked about it on yesterday's episode, they're playing him at second base right now at AAA. Now, I am not sitting here telling you that Nacho Alvarez is the future and the answer and the upgrade at second base, but But clearly the Braves are thinking about it to put him there at that position at AAA, that it's on the Braves' mind that maybe they move on from Ozzie Albies at second base and maybe Nacho is that next plan. Or when you go into the offseason, maybe second base is a place to upgrade. So getting it all back for full circle, talking about this year's trade deadline, I don't know what the interest is in Ozzie Albies at this year's trade deadline. I don't know how available the Braves are making him. I still think there's a lot of value in Ozzie Albies. I think any team that needs, a switch hitting bat and wants to bank on the upside that Ozzie, that, a trade, get him out of Atlanta, which just seems like a bad situation this year, that maybe he gets going. You get a great, leader in the clubhouse, a guy that's been there. I still think there's good value in a guy that has 2 years of control at a very cheap rate. So I still think there's a lot of value to be had in Ozzie Albies. And if a team was willing to take that on and give you something, solid value, I'm not just trying to hand Ozzie away, because like I said, even the $7 million for next year, I think is pretty cheap, even if he's not your answer. Now, I think going forward, you have to be quicker about pulling that trigger if he's not getting it done at second to look the other way. But if you're going into this offseason where I think could be a lot of shakeup, and second base looks like a position that maybe could be one of those areas you look to upgrade, and you can get something of value for Ozzie right now, I think you absolutely do it. I see Matt saying that Ozzie just walked. Walks haven't been the issue this year. It's the highest walk rate of his career. That's not the problem. We've seen a lot of Braves hitters this year increase their walk rate. The issue is that the power has been zapped from Ozzie, and whether or not it's the baseball is changing, I don't know, but certainly without that power from Ozzie, it is not anywhere near the level of production and player that we got for the first 5-6 years of his career when he was one of the best second basemen in baseball. So let me know what you think on that in the comment section below. Should the Braves be shopping Ozzie Albies? Should they be listening on Ozzie? Do you think Ozzie is still the future at second base for the Atlanta Braves, or is it an area that they could look to upgrade in the offseason? Let me know down in the comment section below. Next, I want to talk about a couple of other players that are under contract beyond this year that I think the Braves should be looking to shop at this deadline. We'll get into those guys here next. We've all been there before, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. And that's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Ever wonder what your view will actually look like before you buy? The app will show you panoramic seat views, so there's no surprises once you get there. And with Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. No hidden fees. I love that about the Gametime app. I don't have to wonder when I get the checkout screen how much I'm actually paying. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets or baseball tickets. You want to catch a Braves game here to end the season. You can do that with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. Solely will get you caught up with everything happening around Major League Baseball leading up to the trade deadline, and the guys from MLB Game Night will get you caught up with the best action from each and every night. And of course, make sure you're subscribed here at Locked On Braves. I will be on vacation starting tomorrow, probably my last podcast of the week, unless the Braves make a major deal before I leave on Wednesday afternoon. But you'll still get the postcast with Lindsey. He'll need all your help. So make sure you're subscribed here to Locked On Braves, because he'll be doing it solo for the rest of the week till I come back next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast to Locked On Braves. All right, there's a couple of other players I wanted to talk about that I think the Braves should at least be listening on at this year's trade deadline. And the next one is Sean Murphy. The 30-year-old has 3 more years of guaranteed control at $15 million per year. He also has a $15 million club option for 2029. So 4 years of control at $15 million per year. Not terrible, especially when you consider that when healthy with the Braves, Sean Murphy has been one of the best catchers in all of baseball. And that's not hyperbole. At the beginning of 2023, he looked like the best catcher in baseball. And then this season, even with limited playing time, only 70 games played this year, he ranks 7th among catchers with 2.5 F4. And imagine if he gets more at-bats in the DH spot, along with being the catcher as well. And he has a 124 WRC plus and great defensive metrics. There should be a lot of value for Sean Murphy, especially for a team that is desperate for not just a catcher this year, but for a catcher of the future. I mean, Sean Murphy still with 4 years of control can be your catcher of the future. Now, let me be clear here. I am not saying trade Sean Murphy for the sake of trading Sean Murphy because you have Drake Baldwin. I am very comfortable and fine with having both catchers going forward. I think there's a lot of value in having two really good catchers, especially if it's two catchers that can hit and you have a DH spot that can be more fluid, like I'm hoping the Braves will have going forward, that you can get Sean Murphy and Drake Baldwin in the lineup on the same day a lot. You can get Ronald in the DH spot every now and then. I'm really hoping that the DH spot for the Atlanta Braves is going to be a little bit more open going forward. And if that's the case, I am all for keeping both of these catchers. However, I don't think the Braves are going to do a full rebuild this offseason. I do think there's going to be a lot of shuffling. And if you happen to find a team, whether at this deadline or in the offseason, that is desperate for catching and they're willing to give you their top prospect, I think you have to listen. You absolutely should listen. If the Padres, who are at least one of the contenders right now that most desperately need a catcher, if they call you up and they're willing to give you Leo DeVry, their top shortstop prospect, their top prospect overall, you got to do that deal. I'm not saying they would or should, or that's the value for Sean Murphy. But the point is, if there's a team out there that desperate and they're willing to overpay for Sean Murphy, you do have the depth at catcher of Drake Baldwin, and you've done a great job developing catching in the past and finding those good veterans like the Travis d'Arnaud's of the world. I'm okay and comfortable with you doing that. So again, I'm not one that thinks you got to absolutely trade Sean Murphy, but I do think it does make some sense if the right deal is out there that you move Sean Murphy if it's going to get you some big pieces in return or a big piece in return. So again, want to make it clear, not trying to say just trade Sean Murphy at all costs, but you find a team desperate enough and willing to overpay that could really kind of help you. Again, I don't think they're going to do a full rebuild, but really, kind of retool quickly and get you and help you at the upper levels of your farm system. I think you at least got to listen. And then the final big one for me is Pierce Johnson, a $7 million team option for next year. So another year of control, $250,000 buyout, nothing major there. He's been a top 50, 60 reliever over the past 3 years. He's 34 years old. He's actually having one of his best seasons. It's the first time he's going to have a walk rate under 10%. It's actually down to 6.7%. So he's been really, really good this season. His 2.x2 xERA, 2.82x ERA would be the second lowest of his career. And his actual 2.56 ERA, which is I know what most of you care about, would be the lowest of his career. So he's been really, really good. And again, like with Sean Murphy, I have no problem keeping Pierce Johnson for next year because I understand the pushback against wanting to trade him now is that you would need to spend at least that much, if not more, to replace him in the offseason. So no problems with keeping Pierce Johnson. The reasoning is kind of the same as Sean Murphy. Sometimes teams get desperate at the deadline, especially for relief pitching. And if somebody wants to give you a really solid prospect for Pierce Johnson, I don't think you can pass that up, especially you get a team that's willing to give you somebody that has mid-rotation type of upside as a starting pitcher. I think you got to take that chance. You get somebody that's willing to trade you a position player prospect that has the ceiling of being an everyday player, wherever the case, maybe it's a second baseman, whatever the case may be. I think you have to take them up on that. Here's my other reasoning for trading Pierce Johnson right now. One, he'd likely be one of the better relievers on the market and perhaps could get you a good return. That's my main reasoning. If he can get you a really good return, a solid piece, maybe somebody that's close to major league ready, whether it be in the rotation or position player, that would be the main reason, obviously, for trading him. Two, he's likely to go through his third straight year of having 50 plus more games. So a lot of innings on him over the last 3 years. I'm also very skeptical of a reliever whose primary pitch is a curveball. You just don't see it that often. It's clearly worked for him. However, the whiff rate was 40% in that 2023 season, and it's been more around 28, 29% the last 2 years. This is more of just a feeling, a gut feeling thing for me. I feel like he's, going into his mid-30s. He's tricked everybody with this curveball for years. Now, granted, he still has a really good fastball, 95, 97, but he's kind of tricked everybody with this curveball for years, and he has a lot of workload on that arm over the last 3 years. It feels like kind of just cash out while you can and sell high on Pierce Johnson. Again, that's just kind of a gut feeling. He's been good. I got no problem with him being on the roster and in the bullpen next year, especially at that price. Nothing wrong with that. But that's just kind of a gut feeling. If you're, again, like with Sean Murphy, you're able to get a really good piece back for him, I would certainly be up for it. All right, the final two here, Aaron Bummer. He has the 39th most FWAR of any reliever since 2023, which Braves fans would probably not realize because Braves don't use him like a high leverage reliever. And I think there's reasons for that. But if you can get a team to buy into the fact that you look at Aaron Bummer's analytics, you look at his FWAR, he's been one of the better relievers in all of baseball for the last 3 years. You get somebody to buy into that and to also take on most, if not all, of his $9.5 million that's owed next year. You do that immediately. You find anybody willing to take on Aaron Bummer, you do that immediately. And I'm somebody that's been an Aaron Bummer supporter, but $9.5 million for Aaron Bummer next year for a guy that you don't trust in high leverage situations, whether or not you think he's good. The Braves don't trust him in high leverage situations. So you find anybody that's willing to take on Aaron Bummer and at least some, if not all, of his money for next year, you do that immediately. And teams are always looking for left-handed relievers. And the final one for me is, whether it's now or it's immediately when the offseason begins, I think Jared Kelenic needs to get moved for whatever. I need to be done with that debacle. And I think that's what we can call it at this point, is a debacle. It's a failed experiment, and it was a waste of money that could have been better spent elsewhere to help them with depth in the rotation. Let's just be done with it. And I think that needs to happen, whether you attach him in a deal, whether you just move him for a team that wants to give him a chance. I think Jared Kelenic needs to be moved either now or as soon as the offseason begins. But let me know what you think about some of those players in the comments section below. What would you be willing to trade for Sean Murphy or Pierce Johnson? Are you okay with trading an Aaron Bummer? Do you still think there's hope for Jared Kelenic? Maybe you're one of those Jared Kelenic apologists out there. You still think there's something in the tank for him? Let me know down in the comments section below. Next, we'll get into some of the latest news around Major League Baseball, everything leading up to the trade deadline, and some of the top names who are available. We'll get into all of that here next. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I know for me, I don't play a lot of golf, but when I have, playing all 18 holes is it takes a lot out of you. First 9 holes, I'm good. Second 9, I need a little pick-me-up. And that's where 5-Hour Energy can help you out. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. You might need some of those energy shots to get you through some of the Braves games here the rest of the way. But let's get into some of the news. Not really a ton out there geared towards the Atlanta Braves. Buster Olney did say that there's been some movement in the Marcell Ozuna market. He later noted that the Padres still made a lot of sense. But he didn't say that they're the team that he listed as having internal conversations. He didn't say who that team was. He also said the asking price likely wouldn't be high. Again, I would not expect much in return for Ozuna, but here he is with home runs in back-to-back days, so certainly helping out his cause. We talked about it yesterday too. Henio Suarez got hit on the hand, one of the top bats on the market. Sounds like he's okay. X-rays came back negative. He looks all good, so expect him to get moved at the deadline. Some of the other names out there, or some of the other trades we'll talk about first. The Blue Jays traded for Sir Anthony Dominguez. The Brewers traded for catcher Danny Jansen. The Tigers traded for pitcher Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak from the Twins, as they had to place Reese Olson on the injured list with shoulder strain. He'll miss the rest of the year. Another young starter, kind of having a breakout season. He's done for the year now with a shoulder strain. Now, some of the other players out there on the market who we could see get moved over the next couple of days. Ryan Helsley is becoming the most coveted reliever on the market, along with David Bednar. Dylan Cease is getting a lot of interest, especially with the Astros and their injury-depleted rotation. I'm telling you, every rotation in baseball feels like they are just ravaged right now with injuries. It is not fun. Joe Ryan is another starter available out there, but apparently the asking price for both Ryan and Dylan Cease is very high at the moment. That all can change. That's typically what we hear every year with about 48 hours leading up to the trade deadline, that the asking price are ridiculously high. We're not paying those prices, and then something has to give in the last 48 hours, and a deal will eventually get done. Mitch Keller's another starter out there that sounds like the Rays are in full sell mode now. They have guys like Zach Littell. They have a reliever in Garrett Clevenger that's under control for a couple of more years that I think could make some sense for the Atlanta Braves, a lefty reliever. So we'll see the Braves try to make some sort of move for the future. I think that's definitely something that Alex Anthopoulos could be looking at. Brandon Lowe is another bat for the Rays that could be on the move that's been getting some trade interest. Luis Robert potentially gets traded, although the White Sox are still saying we're going to trade him at his value, and his value might not be that good with the way that he's played over the last year or so. The Mets are reportedly showing interest in him. Ryan O'Hearn from the Orioles is another big bat that's available. Stephen Kwan from the Guardians, a name that's been out there linked to several teams. And then also wanted to note that Rich Hill got DFA'd after losing to the Braves. That's how bad it is for the Braves right now. If they beat a team and beat a pitcher, they just let them go. But I was feeling pretty good for a moment seeing a guy like Rich Hill out there slinging the baseball, thinking that maybe I still got a shot and a comeback in me, but not to be the case. Rich Hill DFA'd, was the oldest player in Major League Baseball. I think it was the oldest player since 2012. Jamie Moyer, what they said on the broadcast last night. But those are some of the names that are available at this year's deadline. Again, I'll be out the rest of the week, but I will, if anything does happen, I'll come up with a short down at the beach, let you know my thoughts on any trades that happen. Again, if something breaks between now and before I leave on Wednesday afternoon, we will jump on and do an emergency podcast with the trade deadline coming up on Thursday afternoon. We'll see how active the Braves will be. Let me know down in the comment section below, though. I would love to know your thoughts. Who do you think gets traded? Do you think anybody gets traded? Do the Braves do nothing? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Give me your predictions on who the Braves trade, or who do you think the Braves trade for? And again, that trade deadline is Thursday, July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern. So usually a lot of moves, flurry of moves that happen right before the deadline. It feels like there's usually a ton of moves that happen like that week before, and then it's pretty quiet the last the 48 hours leading up to it, and then that day, and then those last couple of hours, there's a flurry of moves. So it should be an exciting day. Always one of the most exciting days of the baseball season, and I'm going to miss it at the beach. Got to do a better job of planning vacations with the wife next summer. I apologize, but I will have you covered when I come back on Sunday night. We'll have a podcast recapping everything over the weekend, the Raceway Classic, whatever they're calling it. Hopefully that's a fun event and you all enjoy that. But we'll also be talking a lot about the trade deadline and what to watch going forward with this team. So make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Braves. And thank you so much for joining me. Mass Boost, Kenneth Sellers, Prickle Lean, Docs Cards, C. Schneider. Thank you all for joining me here on today's live episode while we watch the games. Braves trying to make a comeback. Aaron Bummer not helping his trade case right now. But hopefully the Braves can have a nice comeback here. We'll be talking about it on the postcast. Me and Lindsay will be here on Tuesday night for the postcast. And like I said, through the rest of the week, it'll be a Lindsay solo. So he's going to need your help. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves so you get any other podcasts that I have coming your way. If there's any crazy, immediate reactions to trades or for the postcast that Lindsay will have for you the rest of the week after the one that me and him do on Tuesday night. So thank you so much for joining me here live. Hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next.